What's up, everybody? This is Tom Lang with Warchant TV and Warchant.com, bringing you the best FSU football coverage on the internet. Today's topic, where would we go shopping in the transfer portal after what we've seen in 2022 FSU football spring camp? Before we get going, if you have not hit the subscribe button underneath this video, please do so now. It will help you out every time you open up your YouTube app or you go to youtube.com. Warchant TV's coverage and videos will be right there waiting on you. And be sure to hit the like button as well. Every like we get means we're more likely to find an FSU fan who is looking for the best FSU football coverage in the business. We thank you so much for your support. So, on the Jeff Cameron Show, Jeff and I had a conversation about where we would go with available slots on the FSU football roster this offseason. What are our priorities in the transfer portal? Followed by, in the second hour, the question being posed to Ira Schoffel, managing editor of Warchant.com. Enjoy. Let's say we all agree, and let's say the coaching staff did, that if you've got a number one priority for the portal, it's offensive line.
Yes.
What's the second one? Is it offensive line again?
I'll tell you next. I'll tell you next, right here on the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. I think they're incredibly thin on the offensive line, Tom. I think that and I'll tell you something else. I think that if you projected the five starters that I think are likely to begin the season against Duquesne up front, that group is not good, but they're probably average, with a chance against the middling teams to certainly hold their own and maybe even have some good days. Against the better defenses that they'll face, they will not consistently win that matchup, and you're going to have to create angles and do the stuff that Atkins does such a good job of. You're kind of going to have to win with a little bit of trickeration, right? You're going to have to do some things you don't typically want to have to do. If you lose any of those starting five, you got a real problem. And, last year they had guys take turns missing games or starts or quarters or halves. Then you're right back where you started with that group again this year if that were to happen. So, like you said before the break, we know that a point of emphasis in the offseason will be to probably, if there's a guy out there you like, you don't take people just to take them. You don't want to muddy the waters and clutter the roster, take up space by bringing in guys that can't play. Last year, for example, I'll just name a player who I'm really a suspect evaluation. I don't know why they brought in, this isn't an offensive lineman. I don't know why they brought in Cushney last year.
I think they had one more spot, and that was the best available player they could get.
Yeah, he's not at this level, can't be here, shouldn't be here, was a waste. So that's what I'm saying you don't do. You don't do that. So don't just take a guy because he's available and he's in the transfer portal and you need that position. If he can't play, don't do that. So, but maybe they get lucky because last year they got lucky. Dylan Gibbons became available. Clearly they thought enough of him, even with very little tape to go on. Given the pedigree of Notre Dame's offensive line and the caliber of players they've been able to recruit to that offensive line and produce to the next level, they figured, you know what, he's a backup. But, man, they thought enough of him coming out of high school, St. Pete, that they said, all right, let's bring him in, Clearwater, wherever he was. So the point is, if you get a guy like that, I would do it. You and I have talked about it. Doesn't matter if he's a guard, whatever, do it and shuffle the deck, and you're better off.
Yeah, because the lineup doesn't necessarily make sense right now. You're starting five on the offensive line. I think, all things being equal to this point, Darius Washington is better off playing tackle than he is guard. So now you still have a needed guard. Is that Maurice Smith that slides in there? No. Is it Gibbons over to right with Smith at center? Lyles, excuse me. Lyles at right guard with Smith at center and Gibbons on his left? Is it Estes? Is it Schrader?
Yeah, so you're making my point.
Right.
So go get an offensive lineman, or
can Harris play right guard? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough ask.
So I'm going to tell you that I would take two offensive linemen if you could find them.
Right. It was about the second slot. I think we all agree that number one is offensive line. What would be the second take?
I would do that. I would grab a second offensive lineman. If he's, again, you have to hope that there's a disgruntled player who's going through a camp right now at a big-time program who sees that he's not going to get the reps that he thought he was going to get.
There are 9 other dudes that are doing quite well.
Or he's a guy that's played some and is just looking for a change of scenery. Maybe he's a kid like Gibbons was from the state of Florida who's tired of being wherever he is, preferably Wisconsin or Notre Dame, and he decides that he wants to come here. That kind of stuff happens. And you go, okay, well, come on down, finish out your career here in the Sunshine State. Maybe you get lucky like that. But if we're just talking about pressing positions of need, I think I would bring in 2 offensive linemen, and hopefully they're guys that can help you right now. But even if one of them is and the other is a guy that's going to be here for a couple of years, okay, I'd look that direction too.
What's interesting for me is, like, I hear you and I agree. You wouldn't be wrong to go get 2 offensive linemen that can help you and fill in a pinch.
And it's easier said than done. I understand.
Well, I return back to another position. Linebacker.
No, I'm with you. So that was my third.
Yeah.
So let's say they go in the offseason.
Bethune gets hurt. Where are you?
Oh, you're in trouble. You're going back to where you were a year ago, which isn't the end of the world, but it's not an elite group. It's just all of a sudden, Kalen is a great player, or he's become a good player. I really trust him.
Great development to become a good player.
Yeah, he's become a good player. I like him. I really like him when he's not the guy. When Tatum's the guy, and you play him alongside him, okay, we've got a little something there. And then, for just to spell those guys, when Lundy comes in and Gaynor comes in, then you've got, sufficient guys to take reps, not game changers. But that's fine. That's third. I would take a linebacker. Now, I don't know how many guys they're looking to get when this all shakes out, but you got to assume that they're looking at what we're looking at. And I don't know if they agree on the numbers. I don't know if they say, yeah, Jeff, I'm with you. We're going to get 2 offensive linemen, 1 offensive lineman. I don't know, because that would dictate only so many guys you can bring in. If you figure out that you're going to lose 4 players, 5 players of your own, and you've already lost 2 this spring, okay? So now let's just say, so Wren left. You're like, okay, well, have a good day. That's fine. Good. Anybody else? For that matter, obviously Brownlee left. It was less than ideal, but you're in a position to withstand that. I'm going to assume a couple other guys will be like, okay, this ain't for me. I'm not going to make it. I'm getting passed up. And,
yeah, defensive back, receiver, tight end room, and I think even defensive interior.
God forbid. I mean, I think you could lose 4 tight ends. That'd be fine.
I'm not hearing any rumblings of people being angry. It's just you're looking at the numbers. There are veteran defensive linemen, interior guys who may be getting pushed by freshmen who are early enrollees, and Daniel Lyons and Bishop Thomas, like, already. So that would be a place I'd look as a potential candidate. But receiver, defensive back, I think would lead the way as 2 segments.
Yeah, so I don't, again, how many leave dictates how many you can bring in. So if 4 leave, 5 leave, you've got an opportunity to, again, reach out for the help you need in the areas of weakness. Offensive line, ideally, I'd grab 2. I would grab, frankly, a linebacker. I agree with you on that. I also think, by the way, that I would grab a receiver. I don't love their receiving core. I don't. They've added to it. I think they got really screwed by the injury in the car accident. That stinks. I mean, he was going to play. But I don't think that Wilson's a player that I can trust series in, series out yet. I really like what we've seen from Pittman without question. I think he's going to be a difference maker. But they're just not deep enough and talented enough there. So if there's a guy out there who's played well in the Power 5 level, who's interested in leaving for whatever reason, he got passed over, then I would look at that. I'd look at a receiver. And I think then from there you can kind of, I don't know. I don't.
A really good H-back could change everything about this offense.
So you're going to, so tight end / H-back.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I don't think that's likely. Maybe. It would be interesting. We have Ira back on the JCS, which is a good thing. Tom asked me a question towards the middle part of the show in the first hour. If we come out of this spring and you've got, and we're guesswork here because it depends on who stays, who leaves, who transfers, whatever. But if you have 4 spots or 5 spots, 3 spots, 6 spots, but I know it matters, but what would you look to add if there were a player available? I think we would all universally agree you would add an offensive lineman. Where would you go from there?
Yeah, I would get an offensive lineman if possible, especially if it's not just a body, but somebody that can play. I think I'd probably go defensive end.
Okay.
I like Jared Verse. I think he's got a ton of potential. I think Dennis Briggs is going to be fine. It's just we still haven't seen him kind of round into shape after he's coming off that injury and changing positions. And I think, Derek McClendon showed some good signs, but I don't know that I feel like great about that position right now. I think, to me, the defense, has a chance to be good, has a chance to be really good. But I'd like to feel a little bit better about that pass rush from the end position. Those would be my first two. I mean, I really think that, you like a little bit more depth at linebacker, but I don't know that that would be a priority because I feel like they feel pretty good about their top 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah, so it gets interesting. Okay, end is one of those ones I've wrestled with because I think that some guys have stepped up versus better every time we hear about him. Certainly when we watch him, we see that he's excelled and gotten better and better. As he learns this defense and his responsibilities, he'll get better and better. He's got the requisite athleticism, to say the least. And then, McClendon has emerged as well. You could use it in
real quick. I just want to say about the ends. I just think, Jared Verse this fall is going to be his first year playing Power 5 competition.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I feel like there's going to be times in games where you'd like to give him maybe even the second or third series. You'd like to pull him out for a series and let him watch it and talk to John Papuchis and kind of go through what's happening or what they did to him and just kind of. But I don't know if you're going to have the depth to rotate him to get him off the field as much. I don't know if you have as many impact defensive ends where you feel comfortable taking him off the field. And so that to me, I would like to have one more proven pass rusher.
All right, so we've got OL, defensive end. You're not opposed to going out and getting maybe one more linebacker just to add for depth, whatever it might be. Any other position? Because I contend that they may need to add a receiver.
I don't know, man. I'm not as worried about the receivers. And I get what you're saying, and certainly the offense, coming off a scrimmage where you didn't do a whole lot. But I think, man, I'm excited about the receivers. I think Johnny Wilson, by the time fall comes around, is going to be a stud. I think, Micah Pittman has shown signs of being really good. And now
I like Micah.
Yeah. And then, we'll see if Winston Wright gets back at some point during the season. But I also think, now you're moving back Pokey Wilson to a 3 or 4, and you're moving back, some of these other guys who have played a lot in the past. Now they're kind of being, 4th or 5th or 6th wide receivers. I'm not as worried about that. I could see where you would be. I've heard enough to think that they think Johnny Wilson's going to be a big time receiver, and I think that may happen.
So in that case, you would go with 2 offensive linemen.
Oh man, that would be something. I don't know if there'll be 2 offensive linemen out there you want, because I do think that's the issue there. There have been times in the past where Florida State just needed bodies. I don't know if they just need.
No, they don't need bodies. No, you're right about that. Yes, yeah. I'm not saying just go grab 2 guys, but they got lucky last year. They got Dylan Gibbons late, and you and I celebrated it, and our cohort on Seminole headlines poo-pooed it. But of course, we were right as usual. If you could find a guy like that, or 2 guys that resemble anything close to it, you'd do that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. But I think a lot of this comes down to. I think a lot of it all comes down to Caden Lyles. If he's the guy that they probably thought he was going to be, a Wisconsin transfer who started at Wisconsin in the past, if he can lock down that center position, now you make Maurice as a backup, and
yes.
I think some other things start to fall into place. So I think that's a big part of it. We don't know where he is in that process, if he's ready to step in, or if that's going to be more of a preseason camp thing. But to me, he's a key, and they've got some other guys that I think have some potential. We'll have to see. Thomas Schrader is just getting back now to where he could play full live contact. 5 months from now, he may be a guy that could step in a guard and play pretty well. I mean, they started him 2 years ago. So I just think there's a lot I don't know in terms of what their thinking is right now with that line.
Thanks for tuning into this video on Warchant TV. Remember, if you're going to be in Tallahassee for the spring game on April 9th, Warchant has events just for you. On Friday, after the Jeff Cameron Show goes live from studio, we have the Warchant Happy Hour live from Corner Pocket Bar and Grill at 5 p.m. That's 2475 Appalachie Parkway. Jeff Cameron, Corey Clark will be live on site. Meet and greet afterwards 5 to 6 p.m. is the time of the show. On Saturday at Hotel Indigo, our new partners at Hotel Indigo, who we are so excited to be joining with, the 7th floor of Hotel Indigo overlooking Doak Campbell Stadium. It'll be a beautiful setting. Noon to 3, a Warchant staff meet and greet with a live pregame show from 1 to 3 p.m. right there at Hotel Indigo. They'll have a cash bar, they'll have buffet of food, everything for you folks who support us at Warchant TV. We hope you come by and say hello. We'd love to meet you. Thanks again for tuning into this video, and we will catch you on Warchant TV next time.